I could get one.
So
Well, I could do it. Yeah, okay. And we'd like to certify that everything that we discussed was only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements, and only such matters as were identified in the motion to go into closed session were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed session. We'll have to take a roll call.
Do I have a second?
Do we have a second?
Second, Steve Clinton.
Okay, Steve Clinton, second.
All right. Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Skyhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. And I need to make some comments here, considering because of the COVID and pursuant to the declared state of emergency in the Commonwealth of Virginia in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and to protect the public health and safety of the Board of Supervisors members, staff, and the general public. Today's meeting is being held partially electronically via Zoom. Members of the board are physically assembled in this building. However, we are using electronic means to assist us in effective social distancing. We posted the meeting notice and the agenda and supporting documentation on the county website for public review. We also provided electronic copies of this information to our Board of Supervisors members and other interested parties. The general public was provided an opportunity to provide comments on today's meeting agenda via two options. One, by submitting comments to the Board of Supervisors via email, and two, by calling into the county administration, where comments could be provided to the Board of Supervisors. During the meeting, we will also receive comments by telephone and from members of the public who have chosen to attend in person. These comments can be made during the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting or on the various public hearings items during the meeting. When each item comes up, I will ask for comments from the in-person audience first and then from the people on the phone line. We ask that everyone maintain appropriate distances from others who do not live in the same household, both in the auditorium and elsewhere in the administration building and campus. We also encourage you to wear a mask or other appropriate face coverings. Before we begin today's meeting, I would like to review a few housekeeping rules which are important as we complete this remote meeting. One, we ask that everyone, as board members, staff, and the public, to remain on mute with their phones and computers until they are providing input. After speaking, please remember to go back on mute. And two, please identify yourself when speaking. I ask board members to do the same when providing comments, a motion, or a second. And thirdly, all votes taken today must be by roll call vote and recorded in the minutes. Now, on behalf of all the supervisors, we want to thank you for your commitment to our county and your cooperation and patience as we work through this socially distanced meeting. Next, I would like to ask Ray Sloan if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Be happy to, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. At this time, we're going to have a moment of silence in I would just ask if any of you want to use this time to pray. I'd ask that you keep the members of the board and staff in your comments and in your prayers, that the Lord would give us an understanding of the issues and the skills and the knowledge to be able to make the right decisions. So we now will have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to have a public comment period, but before I do that, I want to remind everyone that in public hearing or public comment or public hearings, that it is for public comment, not for discussion or question and answer. I made a mistake the last meeting I had and didn't follow that, and we had somewhat of a little bit of a chaos. So I'd just like for you to remember that as we go through the meeting today. Now we'll have our public comment period. Ms. Lane, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
None that I know of, sir.
Nobody signed up to speak. Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would care to speak? Or anyone on the telephone?
Mr. Chairman, we have a few comments.
Okay, anybody making comments, we'll need you to fill out one of the forms with your name and your address and the topic of your conversation.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have two individuals that want to speak here today, and the first one would be Dave Condon.
All right, Mr. Condon, if you'll come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes to make your comments.
Before I begin, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to all five of you gentlemen. Before I begin, I left information regarding Rocky Forge with Mr. LaRoe this morning. Did he by chance give you any documentation?
Yes, we did go through some.
Okay, Dave Condon, 5520 McKinney Hollow Road, Eagle Rock. Just an overview of the site plan filed by Apex Clean Energy on December 11th. The easterly, that report that I provided shows conflicts with height and new locations, deviating from the FAA current aeronautical studies that deviate from those specific latitude and longitude coordinates. As a result, it requires vacating the current aeronautical studies, requiring new ones. That's a fact. Also, too, Apex did not do due diligence in investigating the project site. Besides the abandoned ore mines noted, there was one that the United States Geological Survey as a lead mine. Now, I know that there are others based on my grandmother's when she used to live in the area back in the 1920s. And that and it's still urban number 13. Also, too, there is a May 5th, 2020 letter from the FAA regarding open comments. It's dated May 7th of this year. The problem with that is, yes, and the open comment period was formed between June 25th and August 1. Only one comment was received. Unfortunately, the FAA, in their mistakes, failed to notify everyone, to include the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors, as well as Nicole Pendleton. That's pursuant to Mr. LaRoe on August 20. I apologize. I get a little nervous before y'all. However, in that letter, it said 120 days. Otherwise, a new aeronautical study would be required. Unfortunately, in my investigation, I found that so many people, to include Roanoke Airport, Lifeguard 10, and many others, did not receive anything with the exception of one postcard by Dr. Boyd, who lives in Allegheny County. As a result, on a October 14th letter from Rosenblum with the FAA, they re-announced reopening the open comment period. The problem with that is that letter is over 120 days, and it requires a new aeronautical study. As far as FOIA, I requested that information to substantiate the findings, along with the 2,400 plus emails and a copy of that. None of that came until December 12th by FedEx, violating my rights under federal law. Also, on the last page.
Mr. Condon, your time is up. Can you wrap it up real quick?
Yes, this is important. United States military conflicts identifies VR-096, penetration of 180 feet off the deck with planes flying, as a conflict. There was no evidence to provide that in determination letters of August 3rd. And it's still an ongoing, because there are other military routes that were not included. And the fallacy is with the DOD clearinghouse as well as FAA. That's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Condon.
My wife has a prepared speech.
All right, the next speaker, come forward and give us your name and address.
Ann Condon.
Okay, Ms. Condon, you have 3 minutes to make your comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Condon. I live on 5520 McKinney Hollow Road, Eagle Rock, Virginia, and I'm here representing the VRE. I'm here to speak about the seemingly never-ending delays and changes at the Rocky Ford Wind Project. Here we are again. Still no knowledge of what turbine, make, or model Apex has selected. Why at this late date is Apex still not telling us? Still no consistency in the number or location of turbines. Now it's supposedly 15, and their locations, as identified in Apex submitted site construction plan from the Timmons Group, shows different tower locations from before. This requires the FAA certifications of no hazard for the towers to be vacated and the obstruction evaluation started all over again. Still no consistency in the turbine height. The Simmons Group plan the county just received shows a graphic indicating 624 feet. Yet the next text to the graphic states, note, 686.5 feet is the proposed turbine maximum height. Though final turbine height will comply with Botetourt County Code. What is going on? Do you understand the actual height? I don't. Still no general schedule of planned events leading up to the project construction. Why not? As you've heard from Mr. Varney's VDOT summary, there's still no evidence Apex has provided VDOT a pre-construction road evaluation, which VDOT must approve as part of the site plan. Why not? Apex continues to say one thing and do another. Apex said site plans were expected in October, then November, and now they're still sketchy in December. Why do the supervisors continue to endure these false and misleading statements? Isn't it time to discount Apex words like the proverbial Chicken Little when he said the sky is falling? In closing, please be aware that Apex permit by rule modification, which the DEQ declared complete in mid-October, is now under appeal due to Apex deficiencies and the DEQ's lack of due diligence by ignoring norms. This in spite of DEQ being provided specific weaknesses and omissions by well-informed citizens. I urge the supervisors to just say no. Please put an end to the seemingly endless foot-dragging and inconsistencies once and for all by voiding the special exception permit for calls. At the very least, tell Apex that no county site plan evaluations will begin until the FAA has reissued determined cases of no obstruction hazard.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, your time is up, so if you could wrap it up real quick.
Okay. Since Apex continues to change the quantity and locations of the tower, the county continues to waste time, effort, money on this shell game of an activity, and the harm to the county far outweighs the benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anybody on the telephone that wants to make any comments?
If you're on the telephone and wish to make a comment, please press star 9. None at this time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Hearing none, then we will go to our consent agenda. I hope each one of you had a time to look over the minutes and the approval of a refund for overpayment of property taxes, personal property taxes. If you have, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Dr. Bailey.
No, second that. Dr. Scott.
Okay, Dr. Bailey makes a motion. Dr. Scott Horn seconds it. All in favor, we'll go with the roll call. Or any question first? If there are none, then we'll go to a roll call. There's a thing.
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Scott Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton? Mr. Clinton, how do you vote, sir?
I vote yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Martin?
Yes. Okay. We'll go to agenda item number 4, approval of transfers and additional appropriations. Mr. Cirillo, would you like to go over that with us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Martin. Can I be heard? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you very well.
Very good. Good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to everybody. Happy holidays also to everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. For the month of December, there are 2 recurring quarterly transfer requests as well as a request for transfer of county funds to match private donations received into the Greenfield Preservation Fund. With respect to appropriation requests, there are 6 pass-through appropriations and 6 regular appropriations being requested. The pass-through items 1 through 6 represent expenditure reimbursements, insurance funds, state funds, and miscellaneous receipts. As for regular appropriations being requested, item 7 is for an evaluation of the county's financial and payroll systems. Item 8 are appropriations for FY21 for vehicles purchased in FY20 that were not available to be utilized in the fleet at last year's end. So this then requires an appropriation for FY21 for these vehicles, the cost of these vehicles. Item number 9 is the second and final appropriation for the hiring of 7 full-time equivalent positions to staff the Blue Ridge Rescue Station on a 24-hour, 7 days a week basis. Finally, items 10 through 12 are appropriations for expenditures in excess of budget that were not considered or foreseen at the time of the development of the FY21 budget. Especially requested that these transfers and appropriations be approved by the board. Are there any questions?
Any questions from members of the board? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept or to approve?
Make a motion. I make a motion.
Who is that? Mr. Sloan makes a motion. We get a second?
I'll second it,
Mr. Clinton makes a second. Any question on that motion? Okay, Mrs. Fain, can we take a roll call?
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Skyhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
And Ms. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, the next we have approval of accounts payable and ratification of the short accounts payable list with Mr. Zarella once again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Total expenditure being requested for approval for December for the general fund, including debt service and all other funds, is a combined $2,690,521.10. Of this total, $1,342,000 or 50% was spending of CARES Act funds. Other payable disbursements of note for the month are as follows: under Fire and EMS, $37,620 paid to Magic City Motor for one 2024 F-450 vehicle. $86,473 paid to Priority Dispatch Corporation for costs for software licensing, implementation support, and associated costs for a new medical dispatch program that will overhaul very old guidance and direction on handling EMS responses. Under CIP, Greenfield ETC roof replacement, a total of $384,827 paid to Garland DBS Inc. for replacement of the section of the Greenfield roof that was formerly the copper portion. This includes the final billing for that project. Under financial services, $38,000 paid to Robinson Farmer Cox Associates for progress payment for services performed regarding the FY20 county audit. Finally, under regional organizations, $34,453 paid to Roanoke Regional Partnership for annual funding. This is payment 2 of 2. Are there any questions or comments related to the accounts payable expenditure request for the month of December?
Any questions from the members of the board? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Dr. Bailey.
And motion by Dr. Bailey, second by Dr. Scott Horn. Any questions on that motion? If not, then Ms. Fame will take a roll call.
Dr. Bailey, have you voted, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Skyhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Now we'll go to item number 6, approval of the FY21 budget categorical appropriation resolution. And I believe Mr. Zarella is back up again.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
So when the Board of Supervisors adopted the FY21 budget last June, a partial initial appropriation of the budget was approved as the plan was to appropriate the year's budget in stages. With few exceptions, approximately 30% of the county budget and 18% of the school budget was appropriated in the first stage. The second stage appropriations took place in September as the board approved appropriations, which brought the cumulative partial appropriation to 55% of the adopted budget for both the county and school budgets, with the non-operational portion of the school budget appropriated in full at that time. As we move to consider appropriations of the next segment of the FY21 adopted budget, this agenda item concerns itself with a 25% addition to the 55% already appropriated, which would bring the cumulative appropriation of county and school budgets to 80% of the FY21 adopted budget. With that, staff recommendation is for the board to approve the FY21 budget categorical appropriation resolution as submitted, which is for a total of $22,550,452. Are there any questions?
Mr. Terrell, what percentage did you say that represents?
It would be a cumulative 80% of the adopted budget if this appropriation was approved.
Is that typical? I know we haven't traditionally done it categorically.
This is the first time we've done partial appropriations of the adopted budget.
Right, but we have some idea of what we usually have appropriated by this time of the year, right?
We would have appropriated it all when we adopted the budget.
Yeah, I guess I used the wrong word. Expended.
That I don't have that information in front of me.
And the other thing I was curious about is how is this new process working from your point of view, as far as being a burden or not a burden, or worthwhile? Any assessment?
Well, forgetting for a moment the internal mechanisms that are involved in working with the budget system. What we did was we tried to provide a little bit of a cushion at the beginning of the fiscal year. And we've been trying to appropriate an amount for the next quarter in the month ending the previous quarter. So at this point in time, when I go through the budgets on a department by department basis, there hasn't been really any issues with respect to people overspending their budget, because with respect to a couple of items, Mr. Clinton, having to do with some CIP projects and some other things such as regional organizations, so far, things have been working out fairly smoothly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Zarella? If not, do I hear a motion to approve this FY21 budget categorical appropriation resolution? Mr. Clinton.
Yes, sir. I move that.
Motion by Mr. Clinton. Do I hear a second?
Seconded, Dr. Scott Horn.
Second by Dr. Scott Horn. Any question on this motion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call. Mrs. Fain?
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Scott Horn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
And Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we'll go to agenda item number 7, approval of school capital reserve fund expenditure. And I believe we have Dr. Russ and Mr. Lee also. I don't know which one's going to take this, but if you gentlemen would like to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Mr. Lee. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. The proposed expenditure for your consideration today is for 3 playgrounds at the new Colonial Elementary School. This is a pre-K kindergarten pre-K kindergarten playground, first, second grade playground, and a third through fifth playground. The purchasing avenue for this is Omnia Partners, who's a purchasing cooperative. They handle all the advertising and RFP requirements. This is in accordance with Virginia Public Procurement Act, so all of those requirements have been met. And if you have any questions at this time, we'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions from the members of the board?
Mr. Lee, was there any equipment from the old school or being able to be used at the new site, or are we having to start over?
In respect to playgrounds?
Playground.
I don't know the answer to that. Dr. Russ, do you know the answer to that?
Is this Michael? Yeah, just get kind of close to it.
Okay. So, yes, all the playground equipment at the new school will be new equipment. I guess the way the equipment at Old Colonial is set, it would be difficult to move. But I know a lot of it's in concrete and so forth. But all of the playground equipment at the new school is going to be brand new.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Dr. Scott Horn.
Okay. Thank you, Dr.
Ray Sloan.
Thank you, gentlemen. Motion by Dr. Scott Horn, seconded by Mr. Sloan. Any question on that motion? If not, then we'll take a roll call vote. Mrs. Fain?
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Scott Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
And Ms. March?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now go to agenda item number 8, committee reports. First report will be on the broadband committee. Mr. Scott Horn, would you like to share that with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that we always look forward to is our internet service in Botetourt, of course, and I love talking about our internet here in Botetourt County. As we know, we're looking for that 80% that we have covered, as we started off with 70 or less. So So as we look at this, in our first award of our application, we had our application at $569,808. That application started here in Greenfield to Etzler Road to Blacksburg Road. That application is now complete. They're just going through and doing a punch list, making sure that everything is punched through and gone through, and if there's anything they need to button up, and also that is being completed presently. The second thing is CBEC is now had several people that have been very fond of their service, of course, and some of the first residents that have had this have had a 300 download and 300 upload. Certainly significant to their 10 download and 2 upload. So those have made a big difference for those individuals, as we hopefully later see some of these individuals coming out and talking to us about the amount of speed that they do have. I think our administrator, Gary LaRue, had talked about some of those people that have had 300 download doing their homework. So the other thing that we're always worried about was the second application we went for 800, I think it was 805,604 was our second application that we received and we got granted to us. That came later than anticipated, and so it's very difficult to get this done. Remember, this is the 4 miles, a little bit greater than 4 miles of a backbone that we needed to hook up from our Blacksburg Road all the way up to CBEC and connect that as a backbone. That has been started. We have granted it started, but we've also asked for kind of an extension, making sure we try to get an extension to that. Understand that our VACO leader, Dean Lynch, had wrote a letter in concern of being able to achieve some of these grants that have been out there. And he sent a letter to the federal legislation for the extension of the CARES money. And as we saw in a paper here just recently was shared with me from our administrator, they had a $9 billion bill having a provision to extend CARES funding for about 1 year to be able to spend that money. So hopefully that's going to be signed off by the president, and we have that extension into 2021. So those are the things that are kind of happening in broadband. I certainly am happy that these individuals are out here that are able to use the first site of the CBEC. We also look forward to the Fincastle opening up that new type of wireless communication here hopefully soon. And we look forward to getting all this broadband underneath us here pretty soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Dr. Scott Horn. And now the CARES Act Committee, Dr. Bailey, would you like to share that with us?
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. It's my pleasure to report on the CARES Committee business as it's gone through time here. We have been working sometimes daily on this project of making good use of the dollars that were sent to Botetourt County. I'll go back through the line item of money spent and comment on those. So categorically, the towns received $24,714. Administrative, which is public information systems, some other basic needs that the county incurred, $56,480. Telework and technology received $117,671. This was for some equipment upgrades and cloud-based licensing, these types of improvements that could be made for the county equipment. At this point, we don't have any contingency listed. We've been winding down, of course, playing by the rules that these dollars needed to be used for COVID-related expenses by the end of the year. No contingency at this point remains. Public health and assistance got 1.4% or $81,327. Various items there, heart monitors, transit vehicles, career works assistance, were some of the headlines there. Business assistance, received $473,011. That's about 8.1%. This was primarily the small business and county farm assistant program. I think there were 49 farms that received assistance in some manner based on their application of need. So we're very proud of that. I think, in fact, we may be the only county in Virginia, and I haven't got this completely documented, but it appears that we're one of the only, if not the only county in Virginia that provided specific farm-based assistance. So I think we can all feel good about that. Education, we passed along 17.1% of the CARES dollars the county received to the schools, and that amounted to $995,623. There were some school buses, Chromebooks, some HVAC improvements made, community college tuition assistance. So, fine use there, and very proud to be able to help the schools along with some of that. Workforce and public safety received $851,750. There were upgrades to fire department facilities and so forth with part of those dollars. Broadband and broadband related got the majority of the dollars. That was 55.4%, $3,230,782. And you've heard Dr. Scott Horn allude to the projects that have been worked on over time. We have talked about how important we feel that expanding broadband in Botetourt County is. We were fortunate to be able to use these dollars in that manner. So approximately, and you'll hear the end of the story here, but about 64% of all the CARES dollars we received went to broadband, and that includes the governor's rural broadband initiative money that was made available not long ago, and that's what Dr. Scott Horn was referring to. So in addition to the $5.8 million that we received from the first federal CARES Act through the state, the governor's broadband initiative made, I think it was $30 million available. And we, from good work and hard work from Gary LaRue and the rest of the staff here, make an application. We were able to receive $1,375,000 to add to our CARES funding for broadband expansion. And those two projects were the Fincastle Fixed Wireless Project and the Botetourt Fiber Extension Project that Dr. Scott Horn just mentioned. So we received a total of $7,206,770 in this round of CARES funding. Of course, 1.3 and a little bit was the last of the governor's CARES for broadband expansion. I do say that, as Dr. Scott Horn mentioned, that we're hopeful that the president signs off on the latest CARES package, which was just passed. It does apparently include language that gives an extension to the use of this money through the end of 2021. As you've heard us talk, part of our problem has been fighting the time factor that was handed down with this money. It's very hard to get some of these projects done by the end of this year, which we went a long way. But this would certainly help us finish it off in the way that we have designed it. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that would be the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. We appreciate that. We'd like to have a report now from the Emergency Communications Committee, Mr. Sloan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. At the last meeting that we had, we went through the rankings of the RFP that had been sent in. We had 13 proposals that were sent in, and we have picked the top 4. We have contacted them, and sometime in January, we'll be having virtual meetings with these companies. Until then, we are getting together our questions for each one, and hopefully sometime in March, we'll be able to bring back a recommendation to the board. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Next, we will hear a report from our Monuments and Memorials Committee. Mr. Clinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are proceeding apace with our goals for the Monuments and Memorials Committee. Specifically, we provided the final requisition, I could say a request perhaps, of the architectural firm that's working on the courthouse, asking them to take a look at possible locations on the courthouse site as a part of the courthouse renovation project. And that is now incorporated into their work. So until that comes back, the committee's in kind of a cleanup mode. And when we do get recommendations back or suggestions back from the architectural firm, we will evaluate them and select one to present to this board on January 26th. So the lion's share of our work is done. We are, between now and January 26th, working on a formal report, a written report to be presented to the board and to the public at the January 26th meeting. But I guess we've been at it since July, and it's been a fulfilling and gratifying experience. And I think we've come up with some proposed solutions that are going to meet the diverse needs of the and expectations of a diverse county. But I think you'll be pleased with the result that we come up with on how we will handle the monument, which essentially, as you know, is to locate it somewhere on the courthouse square.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Clinton. We appreciate your work on that. The next committee that we want to hear from is the Circuit Courthouse Study Committee, and that's with Dr. Bailey and Mr. Clinton. So one of you can talk, or both of you, however you want to do it.
I'll take it first, Dr. Bailey.
Yeah, I'm just happy to say that we've had a couple constructive meetings. The architectural partners who's been challenged with the job of helping us figure out what our options are working along a timeline. I think at this point there's been a proposal to them to investigate 3 different options for the courthouse renovation. We'll get that information back here soon and start to work with that. It's going to be a long haul on this project. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Trying to make good decisions about that necessary repair to our court systems. As I hope everybody understands, this is a project that is necessary from a lot of angles. There's needs in the building that are required from the court point of view that currently don't meet state standards from handicap and safety and so forth. So we're working at this at a time when I think for a lot of reasons the courthouse needs renovation and improvements to our court system. So that would be my comments.
All right, Mr. Clinton, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, I think what Dr. Bailey said covers it very well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, add one more comment May I add one more comment on the Monuments and Memorials Committee and also give a brief report on Historic Greenfield?
All right, sir.
And what I'm about to say is true of both of these projects. We've gotten really good press. I dare say all 3 television stations and at least 3 of the printed media outlets in Botetourt County and the Roanoke Valley have been covering both projects, the monuments and memorials and the Historic Greenfield. So that's what I want to say about monuments and memorials. Is it's gotten a lot of interest around the valley. Historic Greenfield has as well, and one of the initiating factors there, I think, was the contribution match that has been publicized for contributions made to Historic Greenfield during the month of December. Contributions at $25 or more will be matched by a benefactor and then again matched by the county. So it's a real great opportunity to infuse some necessary funds into Historic Greenfield. At last count, and we're aiming for $5,000 that will parlay into $20,000 with the matches from the county and from the benefactor. So a $5,000 base will result in $20,000. Right now, towards that $5,000 base, we're a little over $4,000. So we're 80% there. We're only a little over halfway through the month. So that's getting a real good response. We had kind of an open house this past Sunday at Greenfield, inviting the public to come for self-guided tours. And I will say the place looked good. The county has done, I think, a great job in maintaining it and cleaning it up and making it accessible. So I think,
all of you have done an outstanding job on handling these committees. And, when you do it the right way, you get positive results and things look a whole lot better, don't they? So I appreciate the committee reports. And at this time, we have supervisors' comments. Do we have any board members' comments that you would like to make? From any board member?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Bailey.
Yes, sir, Dr. Bailey.
I would just like to say thank you to Mr. LaRue and his staff for all they've done this year. What a trying year we've had. It has been of consequence to the amount of time they've had to spend working and thinking. So I would like to thank them. I also would like to say thank you to Miss Susan Fain, who does an outstanding job and keeps everybody straight. I would like to say thank you very much to her and to the Board of Supervisors, who worked very hard this whole year. And just Merry Christmas to everybody, including all the citizens of Botetourt County.
All right. Any other comments or any comments from any other supervisors?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Dr. Scott Horn.
Yes, Dr. Scott Horn.
I would like to kind of go in with Dr. Bailey and first of all, thanking our county administrator, Mr. LaRue, as well as his staff. And also, there's a move that just happened from Fincastle in a very bad situation as far as some of the mold and things that are going on there, coming over to here to the Greenfield, and some of the positive things we've had mentioned as far as, they feel a lot better. They seem like they're more energetic throughout the day, not only from the senior that they're in, but I think that from the health standpoint, it was a good move for us to do. The other thing too is I still have my patients that are asking me about the memorial and the monument, and they're thinking that it's going to be destroyed. And so thank you very much, Mr. Clinton, for what you've done and kind of explaining to our citizens that this is just a move. We have to remove it and then put it back on site at some place. So that is being explained presently, but I keep on reiterating to the patients that this is not something that it's going to go away. It is just about being moved presently and then coming back on the site. But, that's what you guys are discussing. So there's been some worry about that. The other issue is mapping of broadband. You know, there's been some concern about, you know, how is it that broadband's being, where is it at, where is it going to be, and that's a moving target at present. The other thing too is Lumos is, you know, we've been asking for some of the lines that they have and they're doing, and they're still building out. We will have a broadband summit, a Botetourt broadband summit sometime now. We're expanding that just a little bit more because, extending, from January probably into February or March sometime because of how much is being done presently in the other grants that we just got. We want to make sure that the map is complete as much as possible. So I agree that we do need something, but we will get that out there, and hopefully we'll get some of the information from some of these other places, like Lumos, to give us that information.
Thank you, Dr. Scott Horn. I appreciate that. Any other comments? Okay, if not, we do have it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, without going into detail for the sake of repetition, I will just fully endorse what Dr. Bailey and Dr. Scott Horn both said about the county staff and the county administrator and the difficulties of this past year and our demonstrated ability to overcome those difficulties. So I endorse what you all said and add what season's greetings, as you said, Dr. Bailey. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. I would fully support that too. Mr. Sloan?
I would like to reserve my comments toward the end of the meeting, please.
All right, sir. That'll be fine. All right. With that, we do have a 3 o'clock timed meeting and timed hearing, I should say, public hearing on proposed amendments to Chapter 14. I believe Mr. Alexander or Mrs. Pendleton or Mr. Lockerbie's replacement will be giving this presentation. Is Ms. Pendleton here?
We have Attorney John Alexander here presently. He's going to come down here.
Mr. Alexander, okay, good.
Chairman.
There he is.
Thank you for inviting me to present today.
Mr. Alexander, could you speak up a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear you.
Yes, sir. I apologize. Can you hear me?
That's all right.
Mr. Chairman, we have before the board today an ordinance which has been drafted by Mr. Lockerbie's office. It is a nuisance ordinance which allows for declaration of nuisance, a criminal nuisance, as allowed for in the Virginia Code. It's been drafted and presented to the board, and we're here for the public hearing on that ordinance. I presume everybody's had an opportunity to review it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this ordinance that we're getting ready to have a public hearing on?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
On the part where it talks about, I think on section 4, it talks about repeated acts of malicious discharge of a firearm within any building or dwelling. Why is it repeated? What about just one time?
This is drafted on a template that has been used in other jurisdictions. I believe that language is in there, and I'll ask Mr. Dadak to actually address that. I believe that language is in there in as much as it only allows for a declaration where it's clearly not an aberration but a pattern of conduct.
I'll just quickly supplement to that is that language was provided in the statute in the Virginia Code that authorizes this ordinance, and that's their definition of both constitute criminal blight.
Any other question? Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll open the public hearing. Has anyone signed up to speak, Mrs. Fain?
None that I have.
No one has signed up to speak, and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And now we'll, any discussion among the supervisors before we take a vote? Hearing no discussion, then do I hear a motion to approve the proposed amendments?
Mr. Chairman, I approve and adopt the attachment amendment.
All right, Dr. Scott Horn, did you make the motion?
Yes.
No, I did. Steve Clinton.
Both of you made a motion. Okay. Mr. Clinton, would you be willing to second that?
Yes, sir. I second it.
Okay. Are there any questions on the motion? If not, then we'll take a roll call. Mrs. Fain?
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Scott Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's see, we have a three. Sir?
He said thank you, and thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for all
Thank
the
you,
work.
Mr. Alexander. Is Mrs. Pendleton here? No, I don't think so. Okay, so I've got a few things here. We've got a 3:30 Highway Department update, but we've got about 23 minutes before that. There she is. Okay, there you are. Would you like to give us a staff update on the Apex Rocky Fords project?
Yes, sir. I'd be more than happy to do that at this time. We'll let you know that we did receive a digital plan submittal of the construction plans for the on-site construction. At the time of the packages, we had not received a payment of fees. I believe we received those in the last day or so. The payment of fees allows us to start the formal review process for completeness review. As you all know, the state code and our county code give us certain procedures and protocols for conducting site plan reviews within the county. So we will work through that. We believe we have 10 days to complete that review from the zoning side. Erosion and sediment control completeness review is another code requirement that's underway at this time. And I will let you know that we did have a technical review committee meeting, which is typical. We have those once a month with any applicants who have an interest in participating. So we did have a brief discussion with Timmons and Apex last Friday regarding the plans. It does not appear that they're complete at this time. It does not appear that they have submitted the supplemental information that's required for site plan review as part of the SEP requirement. We also do not have off-site road construction plans. So the construction plans that are required for the turbines to get to the site have not yet been submitted. And Mr. Barney can likely speak a little bit more from his angle, but I'll just update you that all plans are processed through our office and then forwarded on to VDOT for their review. So they've not received anything formal at this time. Mr. Johnson did let us know by phone that the geotechnical studies were slated to begin in the next week or so. And that's going to conclude my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions and wish everyone a happy holiday at this time as well.
Okay. Any comments or any questions for Mrs. Pendleton? Okay. If not, thank you for the update on that, Mrs. Pendleton. And I'm going to go ahead and go to agenda item number 13. Is Mr. Pearson here? Is Drew Pearson with us? Okay, I don't hear him. We'll come back to that. We'll go to item number 14. Mr. Sexton, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Well, I see Drew Pearson now. Well, let's go ahead with Mr. Pearson. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Would you like to go ahead?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Could you give us an update on that request for a comprehensive plan for the Damari and Amos properties on Essler Road?
Yes, sir. The next item on your agenda is a request to advertise for a planning commission public hearing to consider amendments to the Botetourt. Am I coming through okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. To advertise for a public hearing to consider amendments to the comprehensive plans, future land use map, and the sewer and water infrastructure map for the parcels identified as parcels 87-95 and 87-96. This is a comprehensive plan amendment that is owner initiated. It's being brought by Family Builders LLC on behalf of Elizabeth Ann Damari and Michael and Melinda Amos, which are requesting that the board consider amendments to the comprehensive plan to establish medium density residential future land use designation for the subject properties that consist of a total of 108.58 acres that are located along Essler Road in the Amsterdam District across from Greenfield Elementary School and the Botetourt Sports Complex. The application also includes that request again for the expansion of public sewer and water to be able to go to the properties. The applicant stated in the purpose of the request being that it was to support a forthcoming rezoning application to change the zoning from agricultural A1 to residential R1 for the proposed residential development that they're proposing, consisting of 130 single-family dwellings. As you might recall, at its July 28, 2020 meeting, the board did deny a similar comprehensive map amendment request for the same applicants. However, that request was in support of a rezoning to a traditional neighborhood design district or a much denser development, which proposed a total of 175 single-family homes, 618 multifamily dwellings, and 70,000 square feet of commercial and retail space. So the current request is more in support of a much less dense development. The board may either approve, deny, or table the applicant's request. If the board were to approve the applicant's request, the proposed amendments will be reviewed by staff and considered by the Planning Commission, which would then, following a public hearing, make a recommendation to the board. The board may specify any time frame for consideration by the Planning Commission. If the board were to deny the applicant's request to authorize the public hearing, the proposed amendments will not be considered and the comprehensive plan amendments would not go forward and the comprehensive plan would remain the same. The board may also table the request for consideration at a future board's meeting. There's no time limitation specified for future consideration. It would be totally up to the board. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions from any of the members of the board?
Mr. Pearson, Mr. Pearson, just to confirm this action at this stage, and if it were to go to a public hearing by the Planning Commission and be approved at that public hearing, everything is still general in the sense that the applicant would still have to go through the normal process of rezoning and so on. This doesn't do anything in terms of allowing anything to go forward. This is a preliminary step. Is that correct?
You are correct. So an application for rezoning would still need to be necessary. And as of the date, the county has not received such a rezoning application.
So, Mr. Pearson, what you're asking for is authority from the board to advertise for a public hearing on this. Is this correct?
That is correct. The applicant is requesting for the board to authorize a public hearing so that the matter can be considered.
Okay. Any questions from any other members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, Dr.
Yes,
Bailey.
Yes, sir, Dr. Bailey.
The question I would have, so there were VDOT concerns before about the traffic. I guess maybe these questions get answered at a later date and may not pertain to our thoughts today, but I know there were previous concerns from VDOT about traffic, and also I wonder about the eventual water and sewer situation there. I guess all that gets bared out in time as you go through the process.
Okay. Do I hear any motion to approve or reject?
Chairman, I think that Drew, could you answer those questions that Dr. Bailey just had presently?
Sure, I'd be happy to elaborate. So the previous request did include a traffic impact analysis, and there were, due to that dense of a development being proposed, there were certainly concerns with the traffic impacts to different intersections, in particular US 220, Catawba Road, as well as the Etzler Road and Catawba Road intersections. Within that study, once it got to, let me see, I've got it here. Once it got to the kind of density, it did dictate that traffic impact improvements would be needed. Now, with only 135 homes, there was nothing in the traffic impact analysis that would have warranted any kind of improvements or mitigating improvements to either one of those intersections. It was only when it got to, I think, 175 homes that it began to require improvements at the Etzler Road and Catawba Road intersection. So the threshold that is currently being proposed, if that is what ends up happening, would have not tripped any of those needs to mitigate traffic impacts.
Mr. Clinton, you had a question a minute ago.
No, sir. I was going to, if there was no further questions, I was going to make a motion.
Okay. Are there any further questions concerning this topic? If not, Mr. Clinton, we'll entertain a motion.
I will preface this by saying categorically that this is not an endorsement of the project itself. This is a general motion in response to this general request that we allow the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing on the text amendments. And I view that, with that reference to this particular project, I view that as kind of a question of due process. I think it's reasonable to consider this as a change to the comprehensive plan because of the general location of the property. So with that, if that's a qualification, I don't know, but with that preamble, I will move for approval that we allow the Planning Commission to hold the public hearing.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Clinton to move forward to allow the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing on this. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, Dr. Scott Horn.
Second by Dr. Scott Horn. Are there any questions on this? If not, then we'll take a roll call vote. Mrs. Fain?
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Scott Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I think we have time for item number 14 before we do the 4 o'clock presentation. Mr. Sexton, are you on board?
Yes, sir.
There you are. Yes, I see you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and other members of the board. Before you is a consideration of a resolution in opposition to a new state boating access permit and fee. The Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources formerly the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, has proposed a new boating access permit and fee effective January 1st, 2021 for anyone using department-owned or maintained boat access sites. Outlined in the resolution before you, this new permit and fee propose a number of difficulties to outfitters, such as Twin River Outfitters in Buchanan, located here in the county, and the public seeking to enjoy the waterways in the state. This request was proposed to the county by the Friends of the Rivers and one of the county's river outfitters, and a resolution, if passed, will be forwarded to the county's state legislative representatives and to the Department of Wildlife Resources. If you have any comments or questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any comments for Mr. Sexton on this?
Chairman, if there's no comments, I move for approval.
Okay, approval by Mr. Clinton. Do I hear a second?
Second, Dr. Bailey.
Seconded by Dr. Bailey. Any question on that motion? Okay, if not, excuse me. If not, we'll take a roll call vote, Mrs. Payne.
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Skyhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Martin, you need to make sure that that you're asking if anyone's on the phone that may have comments or whatever.
But it's not a public hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had an act notice.
Oh, okay. All right. When we go through the public hearings, if there's anyone on the phone or in the audience that wants to speak, be sure and let me know. Okay, at this time, I'm going to go to item number 15, appointments. The term of the Amsterdam District Representative on the Planning Commission expires January the 1st, 2021. This is a 4-year term. Do we have an appointment for that?
Mr. Chairman, I have spoken with Mr. Nicely, and he is signed up for another 4 years.
Thank you, sir. We have to prove that, don't we? Yeah, we do. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion for approval.
Okay, and a second?
Second, Dr. Bailey.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on this appointment? If not, Mrs. Payne will go for another roll call.
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Skyhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to 15B. The term of a county representative on the Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care Board of Directors will expire on December the 31st, 2020, and this is a 3-year term. Do we have a replacement or a reappointment on that?
Chairman, I think Dr. Leffel was good to fill this vacancy.
All right, is that a reappointment or a new appointment?
New appointment.
New appointment, okay.
And I move to approve.
I move to approve Dr. Leffel. Do I hear a second?
Second, Dr. Bailey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any question on this? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Mrs. Payne?
Dr. Bailey, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Skyhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
And Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Next, we'll have our Highway Department monthly update. We've got about 6 minutes on that. Can we take about a 5 or 6 minute break, and then we'll come back for that if no one has any opposition to that. Come back 5, 10 minutes, okay?
Well, I've been trying to explain to people what we're getting ready to do, but somehow it's not taking off because everybody, makes plans.
participants on the phone. We are still in a recess. Once the meeting resumes, I will make an announcement.
All right, if everyone is back in their places, we'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. I believe at this time we have our VDOT representative, Ray Varney, is going to give us an update on VDOT. And Mr. Varney, thank you so much for your gift. Did you hear me, Mr. Varney?
Yes, sir, I did. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just want to, from all of us, thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to be able to do that, and I'll take this opportunity now while I'm thinking about it to wish the board a Merry Christmas and those in the county as well. And by the way, before I start, it's a beautiful winter day in Botetourt County. I mean, nice and cool. The sky is clear. You know, the sun is shining. It's almost Christmas. Lord have mercy. Don't get much better than that.
Well, I hope that way tomorrow when we go out and visit a few of our constituents.
Well, sufficient for the day is the trouble of its own, Mr. Martin. We'll work out in. I may not be able to sit up and take nourishment tomorrow. I sent the board right before I came a list of the secondaries that will be paved in the county. I brought these copies so that you didn't have to print them. And so I'm going to leave them. Dr. Scott Horn, can I just leave them with you? There are actually a couple extra copies there. I didn't know if Ms. Fain might need one for the board report or not. But I've noted the type of surface treatment on each of those roads. And at the bottom of that list, there's a description of what those surface treatments are. So they don't all get plant mix. Plant mix is the hot asphalt stuff that, we put down. But a lot of the roads, they get surface treatment, and a lot of people call it tar and gravel, and so be it. That's actually what it is, tar and gravel. So, all right. Well, that being said, I'll quickly go down the board report. My wife asked me when I left when I'd be home, and I said, "Well, honey, I just don't know." But by the way, one of the reasons I wasn't earlier is this is the third jacket I had on before I went out the door. The first one was too big, the second one was too frumpy, and this one was just right. So, and not by, that wasn't by my reckoning either, by the way. That came down from on high. So, there's an update on the 220 project. That project continues. They're on budget, on budget. Hopefully they're on budget, and they're on schedule. More important, they're on schedule, which would be for the fall of this of 221. And they're getting much closer. They will continue to have the flagging operations in those locations. So getting through there will be just about as difficult as it has been for a while. But it will get better soon. And then again, the bridge on Ballpark Road, done, finished, over, and we're walking away from there. That's a good thing. Okay, then the yearly resurfacing contracts. Again, that list that I promised you, you have now in your email, and there are some hard copies up here. If you have any questions about those, remember that list got shortened because of the funding. That's just the way it goes sometimes, and we got a little bit less funding than we had hoped. So anyway, if you have any questions about those, let me know. There are several site plans going on that are under review. Most of these were the same ones that were on last month's board report. There's been some updates to them, but basically the same. And then we're showing the permits that we've issued. If there's any particular thing that you all are concerned about in these reports, just let me know for the site plans. They're the ones that I like to talk about most are the ones on the next sheet, and that is Murray Drive. The schedule currently is the contractor has gone back on site. Most of the water line utilities and so forth have been relocated. So the contractor is now out there putting the ditches in. now that the utilities are there and the poles are moved and stuff, we can actually get those ditches put in. So we're working out there this week. We'll work out there next week. By the end of next week, following week, ready for the paving contractor to come in. Now, the paving contractor is just going to put down the base asphalt. He'll put down the stone, then he'll put down the asphalt, and we'll use that base asphalt over the winter. However, typically base asphalt doesn't wear very well. That surface has got a lot of open graded material in it, and it tends to ravel depending upon how much traffic and the weight of the traffic and all that kind of stuff. So what we will probably have to end up doing is we're probably going to have to put a prime and seal coat on that surface before the winter's over, I'm afraid. We had hoped that we wouldn't have to do that. That's an expense that we ordinarily would not have had to have done. But just by the way things have worked out there, it appears that that's what we'll do. However, we are going to get done, and we're going to have that road passable one way or the other. So that's quite the accomplishment. Stone Coal Road, that will happen this spring. We were out earlier this month reviewing that. We found a few things that we're going to have to work on. We have, particularly on the upper end, where it goes from the platted subdivision down to the prescriptive right-of-way. There are some areas up there, and in order for us to put the ditches in, we're going to have some discussion with some of the neighbors. We've got a bush or two in the way that is probably going to cause some consternation. We need to go knock on a few doors and talk to a few folk and let them know what's going to go on. But we really need to get them relocated in order for us to get that road in there the way we should. All right. So, exit one, talk about some things that are going on at that location. I think last time I mentioned to you that that area landscape plan had been advertised, and we actually had a bidder. There was two bids. They awarded to the low bidder. The low bidder was considerably less than the other bidder, and I'm not exactly sure what the differences were. They don't share that information with me, but he was considerably lower, and he actually withdrew his bid. So that project is going to go back out for advertisement again. Now, I don't know if they've made any adjustments in the plan or not. Sometimes if you talk to a bidder, particularly the two that we had, and just once the bids are in, talk to them and see what it was that caused them to bid the project the way they did. Then you can go back and make adjustments to the plan and re-advertise it and help yourself a little bit. Now, whether or not that's what's going to go on this time or not, I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot they can cut out. But the idea is that they are going to have to go out for re-advertisement for that project because of the withdrawal of the low bid. The other thing that we're working on, there's some sidewalk out there. Basically, it goes from a 220 back up to the roundabout and then from the roundabout up. Well, in some of those areas, the tractor trailers are tracking over that sidewalk, and it's toward sidewalks, towards curb and gutter. So we're currently working with a contractor to get out there and replace that broken concrete. And in some locations, we're just going to go in there and fill it with thick concrete and just say, look, you guys run over it. You have at it. There's not a lot we can do. They're going to make those turning movements no matter what we do. So if we don't go ahead and put that concrete in there to support it, we'll be out there forever doing that over and over and over and over. So we're all going to go out there and work on those areas. And then the last thing is the contract for the increased maintenance, the mowing in that general area. We're also working on that. Our plan is to sometime shortly after the first year put that out. It will be a supplemental mowing. We actually currently do 3. Right now the plan is to do at least 3 more. We've been working with the sheriff. The sheriff's also going to do some work in that area. And then the other thing we're going to try to figure out is what we can and what we need to do with landscaping that's actually inside the roundabout wall. So that's the other area that we're going to work on and try to figure out what we're going to do there. I will say this, that the landscaping part of it will be unfortunately, that's going to have to be put off till next fiscal year, simply because of the funding that we find ourselves in. We're still doing some slide repairs in Craig, Roanoke. We've got 2 to work on here in Botetourt on 779 out there near the interstate. There's a couple of slides out there. You may have seen them. We're going to go out there and face those things with some riprap to hold those things in. So that has caused us to exceed our budget this year, and this was not the year to have done that, unfortunately. But we're working hard to correct our budget to get back in line. So we're still going to work in that landscape area, but as far as replacing the landscaping or doing a different type of landscaping, we'll have to figure that out. And again, now I'm talking about right inside the circle, not on the old truck stop area. Mr. Michael had asked me about the traffic engineering study for 460. I don't have an update for you on that. I checked with the district planner again, and for some reason it just hasn't. They just haven't completed it, and I don't know why. I don't know if that's good news or bad news or otherwise. Then the last couple of sheets that you have there are some sheets about what the area headquarters are doing. You can see that they're out. There's a lot of brush cutting going on and ditching. And then the other thing that has come up particularly again today is Fringer Trail. We got an email from one of the residents out there, and she's one of the residents that was part of the petition that had come in. I guess that was October, I think maybe we got that petition in. And the petition was actually a one that they had written and had passed out, and what each individual property owner did was they signed it, and then if they had comments, then they made comments on the back sheet. And there were 5 or 6 different comments on the sheet, but most of them went to dust control. They're concerned about the dust control. Then, of course, the other thing they're concerned about is just a road in general, that it's a narrow road. It's got a lot of curves and dips and humps and drainage and all that kind of stuff. But frankly, that's the nature of an unpaved road. They're the most difficult thing that we have to maintain. I wish we could pave every square foot of them that we have in the county. By the way, we've got over 140 miles of unpaved road in the county. So for us to do nothing more than dust control on every road we've got, we wouldn't get anything done. It's just really not practical for us to do as much dust control out there as I know the citizens would like to have. I know that, and we work hard at doing it, but I'm not sure there's a way that we'd be able to ever provide the level of service I think that those folks would like to have. And frankly, the idea is what they really want is they want the road paved. And the road is in part of the consideration that the board's had in the past, and it will continue to be consideration in the future. So who knows, that may be the next road that gets added to the secondary 6-year plan. Who knows? We will talk about that again in the spring. So with that, I will conclude, and I'll get my pencil out just in case you all have issues out there that you'd like for me to go take a look at and report to you.
Mr. Sloan, do you have any comments from the Buchanan District?
No, sir, I don't. He covered exactly what I was going to ask him to do.
Mr. Clinton? Mr. Clinton, yeah, okay. Mr. Clinton, anything from the Amsterdam District?
No, sir, we're doing good on transportation this month.
Good, thank you. Dr. Scott Horn, anything from the Valley District?
No, sir.
Dr. Bailey, anything from the Fincastle District?
I do have just one confirmation. Are we still good for 1 o'clock tomorrow, Mr. Barney?
Oh, yes, sir. I'll be the one with bells on.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, sir.
If we're able to get up and take sustenance, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's a good point. If we're able to take nourishment in the morning, brother, I'll be there.
Okay.
And I'm bringing reinforcements too. I'm bringing Ashley. So,
all right, bring the reinforcements, and I invite Mr. Sloan, if he's available, 1 o'clock at Beaver Dam Farm.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you, sir.
It's on my agenda. Yes, sir.
All right, sir. And Ray, everything's still set for us tomorrow at noon, right?
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. And I have researched that issue about Royce Road and the well drillers. And Ashley's been working on that. He's amazing. I've been working on that. Let me take that back. Ashley's been working on that. And where they are, Mr. Martin, is they have asked the well driller to actually weigh his truck because of the way the distribution of that weight on that truck is per axle. What we may be able to do is we may be able to give him permission and guidance to go ahead and cross one of those bridges if we know the exact weight and if it falls within some safety factor of that bridge. So we're waiting on the well driller to get back to us with the truck weight.
Okay, well, thank you. Will you be contacting the resident, or should I?
Mr. Stinson, I've already talked to.
Okay. Well, good. Well, yeah.
Yes, sir. He gave me the well driller's information, and then after that, then I started to call Ashley. When I called Ashley, she says, "Oh yeah, I've talked to him. And we're working with him." They'd actually gotten in touch with him and Bridge together, and the Bridge folks had talked to him, and they're the ones that came up with this idea of weighing the truck and doing the distribution of weight on the axles. So we're working on that. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I'll just meet you on that other issue with the water problem down there. Well, thank you so much, and we wish you a very Merry Christmas, too, and hope you have a delightful Christmas.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words. We're supposed to have a small group of family, some daughters and sons and some things like that, and even maybe a grandkid or two. Who knows? So hopefully time will be had by all.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for him.
Yes.
One of the things that, I've heard, and especially from patients that will come in, about the County Waste Transfer Station, there have been some halts to that setting, and I know those individuals are excited about getting that transfer station in there for recyclables and things like that. And I know that AEP may be holding some things behind, but can you give me any more of an idea?
I don't know anything about AEP, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What I will do is I'll go back and see if I know any more about, if Ashley knows any more about AEP than I do,
okay,
and get back with you. But right now I do not know.
Okay.
I'll check to find out.
All right. Thank you, sir. And again, hope you have a very nice Christmas.
Thank you.
One comment that I need to make, we have a supervisors meeting scheduled for December the 30th to discuss the CARES funding. Now, as it stands right now, we're supposed to spend all of the CARES funding by the 30th, or it'll go back to the state. There's a good possibility that the state may extend this spending of the CARES funding. So if they do extend it, then we will cancel this December 30th meeting, and we will post it on our website. So if anybody's interested in that, check the website out, and we'll let you know on that. Okay, right on time at 4 o'clock. I believe we have Mr. Corbin Stone to do the presentation of the county's FY20 audit. Mr. Stone.
Chairman, board members, thanks for having me. First off, Merry Christmas. Hopefully you all received a copy of the audit presentation. I'm going to try to share my screen and put it up for you as we get into it. The audit itself is 174 pages long, so we're just going to go through the cliff notes. We're just going to go through the presentation. The audit went very well. It was a combination of remote work that we performed and some field work. We actually showed up in the field for a few days to pick up some things we just couldn't do remotely. You did receive an unqualified opinion on your financial statements, which means we believe the numbers are materially correct. And you also received the GFOA Certificate of Excellence, which is kind of a feather in your cap. Your report goes through a detailed review. Actually, you have 3 separate reviewers that go through your report. And this year you did have one comment. The comment centered around indentation of one of the lines in the audit report. So that kind of lets you know how thorough these reviews are. We had one line that was indented; it shouldn't have been indented, and so they picked up on that. But it's really good to get that certificate and not only get it, but just have very, very few comments. And I want to try to share my screen and kind of go through some numbers with you. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen now. If you can, just somebody yell and I'll try to fix that.
If you can zoom in.
Okay, great. Okay, hopefully you can see a little bit better there. I'll keep working it. You can see general fund balance at the end of 2020 was $40,144,000. That's down from last year, but you have to remember you did have some bond proceeds that were spent for the new school, and you spent about $10 million there. So that's why you see a decrease in fund balance. Under the modified accrual basis of accounting, bond proceeds actually increase your fund balance, and then as they're spent, your fund balance is decreased. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. There we go. When we look at that fund balance, we break it down into three components. What's restricted, primarily those are going to be bond proceeds for school construction, end of the year $12 million. Then we have non-spendable funds, primarily prepaid items. And then we have unassigned and assigned fund balance. And that's ultimately the fund balance that the board of supervisors can control. They can use it. Even though they may have assigned it for a specific purpose, they have the ability to unassign it or to take that assignment back. So we actually had an increase of about $1 million in your unassigned fund balance. Now, in regards to the CARES Act money, we only report as revenue what we've actually spent. So it's not that CARES Act money is really driving this unassigned balance up. So if wherever you spent last year, increased your balance, but any unspent CARES Act money does not get reflected in your fund balance. The next couple lines down, long-term obligations, governmental activities, that's the general government, long-term obligations, the school board, and then total long-term obligations. And those are going to include pension liabilities, post-employment benefit liabilities. I think you've got some landfill post-closure monitoring included in there. End of the year, there's total long-term obligations at $114 million. And at the bottom of the page, you can see your total long-term obligations and are about $3,400 per person. So on a per capita basis, you have long-term obligations of $3,400, $419. And that does compare favorably to the state averages from last year, which for county stood at $5,814. The one thing I'll mention here, when we talk about fund basis statements, we're using the modified accrual basis of accounting, which is close to the cash basis of accounting. The governmental activities, which is here about halfway down the page, when we show the total net position there, that is on the full accrual basis of accounting. And theoretically, if you liquidated everything, sold off everything, and paid off all of your debts, theoretically, this is what we think the county's net assets or the cash remaining at the end of all that would be at $59 million. So the county is really in pretty good position, particularly given the fact that we're going to be dealing with COVID for some time. I do have the COVID caveat. We just don't know what the economic impact is going to be from COVID. We don't know what the long-term or impacts are going to be on the economy. We don't know how state and federal funding is going to be impacted. And we also don't know what the long-term implications from these very low interest rates are going to be. Some speculate that we may have inflation because of these low interest rates, but at this time, we just don't know. I will tell you that you guys are positioned pretty well. And you can never be completely 100% satisfied, but you guys are well positioned coming out of COVID with that undesignated, unassigned fund balance of $27 million. And you can breathe a little easier with that. Maybe helps you sleep a little bit at night. The second page, I'm going to scroll down to it, just compares your long-term obligations for governmental activities to your unassigned fund balance. You can see you had the jump up in 2018, and that is the school board debt that was issued for the new school. But then you can see it's also trending in the right direction, that this unassigned and assigned fund balance is growing slowly over time. That's what you want to see. And you can see when these debts pop up, then they start coming back down. That's also what we want to see. Unrestricted net position. If you remember, I told you on the full accrual basis of accounting, this is basically what we think the value of the county would be if we sold off everything. And over time, you want to see this number growing. Now, you don't want to take 1 or 2 years kind of in isolation, because some of your liabilities, like pension liabilities, can really jump up and fall back down quickly. So they generally just jump up quickly, though. But again, you want to see this trend, this general upward trend in your net position. And it's really a long-term perspective on how the county is doing. The next graph on page 4, we're just showing your major revenue sources by fiscal year. And you can see the growth has really occurred in your general property taxes. That's going to be real estate, personal property, machinery and tools, public service corporation taxes. That's where your growth has occurred. You've got some growth in your other local taxes down here. It's been fairly steady, actually. In a lot of localities, that has been relatively flat. So it is nice to see a little bit of growth there. The line above that, that's going to be state aid. Big jump up in 2017, I think, was related to some Commonwealth Opportunity Funds you received. And I actually think that's the same case in 19 and 20. And then these other revenues down here, recovery cost and federal revenue, just haven't really moved considerably over the past, this look-back period of 12 years here. Next page on the graph, we're just doing the same thing with expenditures. The biggest expenditure is going to be education. It's grown considerably over time. Public safety, that's the other item that has grown pretty consistently over time. Everything else is, you can see down at the bottom, you can see it just hasn't grown that much. The spikes you see, and I guess that kind of brownish line, that's related to community development, and that's going to be governor's opportunity funds that are spent or transferred over to the EDA or directed to businesses primarily. And you see that's kind of all over the map, and that activity is sporadic anyway, so you wouldn't expect to really follow a trend there. I always like to look at these charts to see where you're funding this year compared to 10 or 11 years ago. Your primarily your general fund funding is coming from general property taxes, with another segment over here of local property taxes, making up quite a bit at 12%. If we compare 2020 to 2011, what you see is there's a greater reliance, and we talk about this pretty much every year, there's a greater reliance on general property taxes than there was back, there's a greater reliance now on general property taxes than there was back in 2011. And kind of a reduced reliance on state and federal funding. And that's kind of one of the trends we expect to see post-COVID as state and federal governments try to get their budgets in order, that your funding may be flat or it may not grow at the rate of inflation. And I think that's a real chance that that's what we're going to see. Tax assessments by fiscal year, you've had some growth in your personal property growth has actually been pretty strong. Those are going to be basically vehicles. So the assessments there have been relatively strong in terms of their growth rates. Real estate is this blue line, and of course, I tell you every year we take 1/10 of the actual assessment because otherwise the graph wouldn't fit on one page. But we've had slow but kind of steady growth in your real estate tax assessments. This light blue line, those are your public service corporation assessments, and they've really taken off, primarily related to some projects that AEP has had over the last couple of years. So pretty strong growth there. But overall, pretty good trends here. We haven't seen this trend per se in personal property everywhere. So it's nice to see that. And we also haven't seen the slow growth rate in real estate everywhere. In some places, we're seeing real estate assessments that have been flat for 10 years. The next page, we're just showing revenue sources for the school board. I'm on page 9, and you can see that Commonwealth aid has started to trend up pretty well. It dropped off considerably after the Great Recession. The local revenue or the local contribution is the second largest source of revenue for the school board. So your contribution to them far exceeds what they're getting from all other revenue sources except for state funds. And federal revenue down here at the bottom, you can see federal revenue came in kind of hot in 2011, 2012, but has since dropped off considerably. And that's that third line down. It's kind of a light gray or blue. But you see that it has just been flat. So it looks like even before the pandemic that federal revenue wasn't keeping pace with inflation. And we do expect that to continue after the pandemic. The next couple pages are just our management comments. There's nothing, our audit recommendations. There's nothing of great significance here. You can kind of read them at your leisure. I'm not going to go over them. They primarily dealt with just some improvements we saw made out of the school. On page 12, we have what's called our letter to those charged with governance. If we came in to do an audit and your staff didn't work with us, didn't help us gather documents and things like that, it would be reported in this letter. Your staff did a wonderful job, particularly given the pandemic. We really had luck with the county in getting everything that we needed for the audit. And in fact, I think we actually issued the audit report maybe a little bit earlier this year than we did in years past. So really hats off to your staff and their dedication to get the job done. We do talk about some of the estimates in the financial statements, and probably the largest one you want to focus in on is that pension liability estimate. That is an estimate that the state provides to us. We don't come up with those numbers, and the county doesn't come up with those numbers, but they can fluctuate wildly over time. So it's just something to keep in mind as you review this report. When you see those pension liabilities, the market does well, those pension liabilities can really go down quickly. The market does poorly, those liabilities can go up pretty quickly as well. We also include our adjusting entries so the board can see what recommended adjusting entries we had for the audit. A lot of those are reclassification type items, so we can get them in the right spot on our financial statements. And then finally, we have our accounting updates that are going to occur over the next couple of years. So your financial statements are prepared in accordance with what we call GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and they come up with new standards every year. That's why your report is now 174 pages from probably 120 pages 8 or 10 years ago. So I've listed out the standards that are going to impact you over the next few years and when you have to implement those standards. The one thing that it was kind of nice, GASB delayed all implementations for the current year. So there are no new standards in your fiscal year 2020 financial report. So we didn't have to implement any standards. We kind of got a break from GASB this year. But this gives you, and some people say if you want to fall asleep or having trouble falling asleep, accounting standards can help you with that. So I've got a summary here that's about 6 or 7 pages long.
Mr. Stone, how do we compare financially to other like localities?
You're in very good shape. You're in very good shape. Any way we measure it, fund balance is at an adequate level.
So I have, I'm sorry, I have 3 or 4 questions, I guess. Not sure where to start, but just in general, one thing that I would say could help us, unless I'm just missing something, one of your earlier graphs shows the increase in various types of tax.
Yes.
And one of them, probably the most rapidly ascending one, was property tax, which the way you've done it there, it includes machinery and tools tax, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Then later on, and let's see, where was this? Something you just presented, I think. Oh, the assessment. So then you provided one to show the value of the assessments, and there machinery and tools was separated out from what I gather is personal real estate tax, basically, residential real estate tax.
That is correct. We've separated it out from real estate, personal property, and public service. Yes, sir.
So, and I'm not looking at that graph now, but I think machinery and tools was, the assessment was increasing quite rapidly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just 3-4 years ago, you were under 200 million, and now you're approaching 250 million.
So what I'm trying to correlate is that the assessments of machinery and tools versus real estate and the resulting taxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And so perhaps next year what we can do is then take this a step further and show the actual taxes related to each assessment going back 10 years.
Yes, sir. I think that'd be really helpful to understand. Yeah.
No, I completely understand. Thanks for pointing that out.
Okay. The other thing, and I think this may have been on maybe your first table that you showed, and it's in the report quite clearly on page 157, I guess, but you'll know what I'm talking about. Fund balance, between 2017 and 2018, there was a big jump. Do you recall why that was? Because that sort of set the baseline.
Yeah, that was the issuance of that school bond. And so when you issue debt, fund balance actually goes up. So I'll go to page 157 just to make sure I'm not, it's not 157, it's 151, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's exactly what that was. And you can see that the restricted amount, if you look on page 151 of the audit report, you can see the restricted amount is really what jumped up the most.
Okay, and that's a bond. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, it's a good question, and it's so that's why I tried to point out that we look at that unrestricted or unreserved portion to kind of monitor your health, because you can issue bonds and fund balance goes up, but you really aren't any healthier.
Yeah. Okay. The final thing, I mean, I was kind of concerned about, I mean, it's good and bad, I guess, but the increase in revenues that come from property tax, from real estate tax, including machinery and tools. So without worrying about the fact that that's combining machinery and tools and residential real estate tax, putting that aside, I noticed somewhere else, I think it may have been, I wrote down page 162, I don't know, but it showed per capita income increasing. And man, it increased pretty darn well in the last 10 years, which not that should have anything to do with government policy and real estate taxes and so on, but it does have an indirect relationship. You know, I mean, that kind of, it mitigates the concern that I have that we're taxing real estate too much. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. You get back to how are your citizens doing relative to your government, and so there's also this notion of ability to pay. And so if you've got rapidly rising real estate taxes without a rise in compensation for your citizens, then you start to run into a problem with their ability to pay. But no, that's a good point, and that probably should be something that the county might want to track. So look at the per capita income versus and how that's increasing each year versus the increases you might have in real estate taxes.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for Mr. Stone from any of the other members of the board?
Yeah, Dr. Bailey here. Mr. Stone, I noticed that you didn't have a per capita debt figure for this year. Is that just because that hadn't become available yet?
That's correct. We have to wait on the state to publish the transmittal report or the local government report, and they won't produce that until February.
Oh, okay. So our level at, I think it was $3,400 per capita, seemed very reasonable.
Yeah, it's actually, I will tell you that the more urban counties will carry higher debt per capita than the more rural counties. But even taking that into consideration, I think your level of $3,419 is very reasonable.
And can you make any statement about the county assessments that occurred as far as other counties that you deal with? Real estate values certainly were appraised to be up this time. in our reassessment. Is that generally true across your discussion area?
Well, we are starting to see some growth in real estate assessments across the southwestern part of the state, in the more urban areas, I should say, of the southwestern part of the state. So some of your localities in the coalfield country aren't going to see those increases in real estate assessments. We are seeing some increases in real estate assessments, but for a lot of localities, we saw and kind of take out the localities that are out in the coal fields. For a lot of localities, we saw a very flat, almost no growth over about a 10-year period, which indicated to us there was really no new construction going on. And so in your case, we do see a little bit of growth if we look back over that 10 years prior to the most recent assessment.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions from members of the board? If not, well, Mr. Stone, we appreciate your report and your work on that. And we also wish you a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll just remind you, my contact information is on the front of the presentation. And we're here to help the board any way we can. So don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email if you have any questions, or if you think I just might be able to help you. I really, really appreciate doing that for you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you. And I believe that concludes the agenda. We have, I think, one of our board members, Mr. Sloan, would like to address the board.
Mr. Chairman, can I approach the podium?
Yes, sir, you may.
Not easy to navigate them steps with a mask on. Mr. Chair and my most esteemed Board of Supervisor members, as all of you have known, I've had a passion for fire and EMS just about all of my life. EMS, also known as emergency services. I have been an advocate for the emergency services because this is where Botetourt County can directly impact individuals and families at their most worst times of their lives. I started my EMS career in the Benton Volunteer Rescue Squad in 1972. Then I began my volunteer fire career at the Blue Ridge Volunteer Fire Department some 38 years ago. I was also a member of the Buchanan Fire Department for over 16 years and had kind of moved away from that from running calls as I became a board member. As a board member, I was gladly appointed to the Fire EMS Board Committee along with Chairman Martin and supported fire and EMS from this seat. I was pleased to assist in the selection of the current chief, who is doing a fabulous professional job. I was also glad to support the creation of the Fire EMS Capital Reserve process to where fire and EMS are able to support and create their own needs without draining the BOS fund balance. And I was happy that we started acquiring some gently used equipment, such as a ladder truck for Troutville and a squad/crash truck for Buchanan that were purchased for basically pennies on the dollar. And we've also purchased 4 ambulances during my time at the BOS that is helping the citizens today. This year has been one of the most record books. This year has been one for the record books with the pandemic, and I have been amazed how the county has stepped up to the cause, starting with a $2.3 million real estate tax relief program and then the excellent usage of the CARES funds that's going to make long-term differences in Botetourt. I have enjoyed my time as a BOS board member and have gained lifelong friends that much like fire and EMS that have educated me on lots of projects and processes that will stay with me for a lifetime. As I reflect on the topics, fire, EMS, economic development opportunities, educational support, and the pandemic are the cornerstones of my time on the board. 3 of these were great and fantastic, and the 4th was bad. However, the county has delivered services and support through the pandemic that has been utterly awesome. With all this being said, I have taken the opportunity to continue service to Botetourt County by becoming an active member of the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department again. I have met with Chief Crouch and the membership to start down this path of service. I do not feel that I can fully serve on the fire department and serve on the Board of Supervisors. So today, I hereby submit my resignation, effective at 5 p.m. on December the 3rd. This decision was not easily made. However, I have rarely passed opportunities to serve on emergency services. I will be serving this beloved county just in a different capacity. I would never leave or wish to leave this board in a bad place. So I've been quietly searching for an available and qualified replacement for my seat. I have thought about this long and hard. And I have a person that I would like the board to consider. He is a resident of the Buchanan District and has agreed to serve if the board wishes for this to happen. Her name is Mrs. Amy White. A project-driven individual by a lifelong love of natural sciences, Amy White received her undergraduate degree in biology from James Madison University and her master's in microbiology and immunology from Virginia Commonwealth University. She has also earned a certificate in field epidemiology from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Following completion of her graduate degree, Amy worked for a private consulting firm in environmental toxicology until beginning her teaching career at Hollins University in 2001. She has also taught at James Madison University from 2003 to 2005 and has worked at Virginia Western Community College since 2005. At Virginia Western, she has held various roles, including an assistant professor of biology, biology program head, and assistant dean. She now serves in the School of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, also otherwise known as STEM, while continuing to teach part-time in the science department. As a native of Botetourt County and in the Buchanan District, Amy is honored to work in the region, and she's committed to the success of Botetourt and the region at large. In her current role, she strives to provide meaningful education opportunities for the local students, as well as helping develop and to support strong academic programs that have contributed to the economic vitality of the region. Amy resides with her family on the family farm near Arcadia with her husband, Corbin. Her 2 children, Lindsay and Davis, are attending the University of Georgia. Lindsay is pursuing a degree in veterinary medicine, and Davis is at graduate school studying poultry science. Mr. Chair and my board members, I have no idea how I found such a more capable person to take my spot on the board than Amy White. I respectfully move that the board appoint Ms. Amy White to the board starting at 5:01 on December 30th, 2020. Mr. Chair, I have a motion.
Motion on the floor to appoint Ms. Amy White to the Board of Supervisors at 5:01 p.m. Is that on December the 30th or 31st?
30th, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that, Dr. Scott Horn.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Scott Horn. Is there any question on this motion? Any comments? If not, then we'll take a roll call vote. Mrs. Payne?
Dr. Daly, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Dr. Steinhardt?
Yes.
Mrs. Flood?
Yes.
I vote yes. Yes.
And Mr. Martin?
Yes. Motion is carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Ray, I'd like to just say thank you for the time that you put in on the board. You've been a good board member. You know, I've worked with you, as you mentioned, many years ago in the Blue Ridge Volunteer Fire Department. Been with you on a number of calls in Botetourt and in Roanoke when I was on the squad up there. You've been an excellent board member. You've looked at the issues at our hand. You've tried to review them and study them to make the good decisions that need to be made on the board. And I just appreciate all that you've done. Thank you so much. And I wish you the very best as you go with the fire department in Buchanan. And I hope that it will be a really rewarding continuation of your service in Botetourt County. And we thank you. Is there any other comments for Ray that the supervisors would like to make?
I certainly would second that as well. Not only did we find a friend, but we found a wonderful individual that has helped us throughout this Botetourt County in many difficult situations as well. So, again, we're losing an important, valuable individual for Botetourt County, but we're hopefully, you know, we're certainly gaining another one, but we'll miss him dearly.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Bailey.
Yes, Dr. Bailey.
Yes, sir. Certainly, Mr. Sloan, I respect your decision and certainly selfishly am sad to see you go. The fire department is no less important and deserving of a capable individual as yourself. So, you know, we appreciate the time you've spent here with us. It's been a pleasure serving on the board with you. You've been a good board and great board member, and you will be missed, but Ms. White certainly will be accepted and be a good addition. So look forward to seeing you down the road.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey.
Mr. Chairman, I'll add comments. Ray, your comments I thought were beautiful and heartfelt. And what I'm about to say is heartfelt as well. I'm along with our colleagues on the board, have really enjoyed working with you, enjoyed your sense of humor and your insights and your knowledge of the county. Just been an invaluable asset to the board and to the county. And you're going to be missed, Ray. We understand why you're doing what you're doing, and you're going out very well. But there's certainly a huge tinge of regret here. Godspeed and good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Anybody else?
That you see me standing here at this podium, but I do want to make a statement about the staff of Botetourt County. You cannot ask for better people to
That's right.
work with and have such a caring attitude about how this county, and it has been a awesome time, a very much of a learning experience, and I hope to pull that learning experience not only into my business but also into the fire department. Again, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Anyone have any further comments? If not, then we'll recess until the 6 o'clock session. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Delegate Austin. I would like to just extend my appreciation to Supervisor Sloan for his service to the county. And I do understand his heartfelt, sincere dedication and devotion to Pirate EMS, and I think he will lead very well there. And I'd just like to thank him for his service here as supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Austin. I'm sure he appreciates that too. And with that, then we will recess until the 6 o'clock portion of the meeting.
Good. But I think everything. Yeah, go back down. All going well?
hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. It's just me. I'm playing with you.
Participants on the phone, we will resume the board meeting at 6 o'clock. You're welcome to return at that time. The meeting will resume at 6 p.m.